Maya, he said, his voice rough with emotion. I want you to know that whatever happens between us, I will never hurt you the way David did. I will never lie to you, never betray you, never make you feel like you're not enough. How can you promise that? Because you're not just enough, Maya. You're everything. The words hung between them like a bridge, an invitation to step into something new and wonderful and terrifying. Maya looked into Adrian's green eyes and saw her own hope reflected back at her. I want to try, she said. Despite everything, despite all the reasons it might be a mistake, I want to try. Good, Adrian said, his smile making her pulse race. Because I'm not letting you go without a fight. As if summoned by their conversation, Maya's phone buzzed with a text message. She glanced at it and felt her blood run cold. The message was from David, we need to talk. Meet me at the Meridian Hotel bar in an hour. Come alone. Adrian noticed her expression immediately. What is it? Maya showed him the message, and she watched Adrian's face transform into the mask of cold fury she was beginning to recognize. You're not going, he said flatly. Adrian, maybe I should. No. His voice brooked no argument. Maya, this is exactly what we talked about. David is trying to manipulate you, to pull you back into his web of control. You don't owe him anything. Maya looked at the message again, her mind racing. What if he apologizes? What if he wants to explain? Then he can do it through his publicist, like any other public figure trying to manage a scandal. Adrian's eyes were like green ice. Maya, promise me you won't meet him. Maya looked into Adrian's face and saw genuine concern mixed with something that looked like fear. The idea that this powerful, competent man might be afraid of losing her to David was both heartbreaking and oddly comforting. I promise, she said. I won't meet him. Adrian's relief was palpable. He reached for her hand again, holding it tightly. Thank you. But Adrian? I think we should be prepared. David doesn't strike me as the type to give up easily, especially now that his reputation is on the line. Adrian's smile was sharp and predatory. Let him try. He has no idea what he's up against. As they finished their dinner, Maya found herself torn between excitement and apprehension. She was falling for Adrian Blackwood, there was no point in denying it anymore. But she was also walking into a world of power plays, media manipulation, and enemies who would use any weakness against them. What she didn't know was that David's text message was just the beginning. By the time the sun rose tomorrow, the stakes would be higher than she could have imagined, and the choice between love and safety would become a choice between everything she wanted and everything she thought she needed. But for tonight, sitting in an intimate restaurant with a man who looked at her like she was the most precious thing in the world, Maya allowed herself to believe in fairy tales again. Maya woke up the next morning with sunlight streaming through her bedroom windows and the lingering warmth of Adrian's goodnight kiss still tingling on her lips. For the first time in weeks, she had slept peacefully, wrapped in the memory of his promise, I'm not letting you go without a fight. But as she reached for her phone to check the time, her peaceful morning shattered like glass. 17 missed calls. 43 text messages. And a voicemail from her landlord that made her blood run cold. Miss Okafor, this is Mr. Peterson. I've received some disturbing calls about you from reporters. I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to vacate the premises by the end of the week. I can't have this kind of media attention affecting my other tenants. I'm sorry. Maya sat up in bed, her heart pounding. She was being evicted because of the David situation. The sanctuary of her small apartment, the one place where she felt safe, was being taken away from her. With trembling fingers, she scrolled through the text messages. Most were from reporters asking for interviews, but one number kept appearing over and over again. David. Maya, please call me back. This is getting out of hand. I never meant for it to go this far. We need to talk. Sarah is threatening to call off the wedding because of all this media attention. Please, just give me 5 minutes. The last message had arrived just an hour ago. If you don't respond, I'm coming to your apartment. We're ending this today. Maya's hand shook as she called Adrian's number. Good morning, beautiful. His voice was warm and intimate, making her heart skip despite her panic. Adrian, I need help. The words tumbled out of her, the eviction notice, David's escalating messages, the fear that was clawing at her chest. Where are you right now? Adrian's voice immediately shifted into protective mode. At my apartment, but Adrian, David said he's coming here. I don't want to face him alone. You won't. I'm 20 minutes away. Don't open the door for anyone until I get there. Maya was pacing her living room in her pajamas when she heard heavy footsteps in the hallway outside her door. Her blood froze when someone began pounding on the door with aggressive force. Maya. I know you're in there. Open the door. We need to talk. David's voice was louder and more demanding than she'd ever heard it. This wasn't the smooth, charming man she'd dated for 3 years. This was someone desperate and potentially dangerous. Maya, please. Sarah's father is threatening to pull his investment. My company could go under. All because of that interview yesterday. You have to help me fix this. Maya pressed herself against the far wall, her heart hammering. The selfish audacity of it took her breath away. He was asking her to save the company he'd built while cheating on her with her best friend. I'm not going anywhere until you talk to me. David shouted, pounding on the door again. That's when Maya heard the elevator doors open and Adrian's voice, cold as winter steel, Mr. Adebayo. I suggest you step away from that door. Through the peephole, Maya could see David turn around to face Adrian. Even from her limited view, she could see the way David's shoulders tensed when he realized who he was dealing with. This is between me and Maya, David said, but his voice had lost some of its aggressive edge. No, Adrian replied calmly. This became my business the moment you decided to drag Miss Okafor's name through the media for your own purposes. Now, I'll ask you once more. Step away from the door. And if I don't? Adrian moved closer to David, and though Maya couldn't hear what he said next, she saw David's face go pale. Whatever Adrian whispered to him was enough to make David take several steps backward. This isn't over, David said, but he was already walking toward the elevator. Yes, it is, Adrian replied. And if you come here again, if you contact Maya again, if you so much as speak her name in public, I will destroy everything you've spent years building. Do we understand each other? David got into the elevator without another word, but the look he shot at Adrian was pure hatred. Maya opened her door the moment the elevator doors closed. Adrian turned to her, and the fierce protectiveness in his green eyes made her knees weak. Are you all right? He stepped into her apartment and immediately pulled her into his arms. Maya melted against his chest, breathing in his familiar scent, expensive cologne mixed with something that was uniquely him. I'm fine now that you're here. Adrian held her tightly, one hand stroking her hair. Pack a bag, he said quietly. What? You're not staying here anymore. If your landlord is evicting you and David knows where you live, you're not safe. Maya pulled back to look at him. Adrian, I can't just move in with you. We've known each other for 3 days. You can stay in my guest suite. It has its own entrance, complete privacy. You'll be safe, and we can figure out a permanent solution. The offer was tempting, too tempting. Living under the same roof as Adrian would blur every professional and personal line they'd carefully maintained. I don't know. Maya began. Adrian cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing across her cheekbones. Maya, I can't protect you if I don't know where you are. Please. Let me keep you safe. The vulnerability in his voice undid her. This wasn't just about her safety, it was about his peace of mind. She could see the fear in his eyes, the terror of losing someone else he cared about to an enemy's machinations. Okay, she whispered. I'll pack a bag. As Maya gathered her things, Adrian made phone calls arranging for movers to handle her belongings, having his security team do a sweep of her building, scheduling a meeting with his lawyer to discuss legal action against her landlord. You don't have to do all this, Maya said as she folded clothes into a suitcase. Yes, I do. Adrian appeared in her doorway, his phone finally silent. Maya, when I told you that you were under my protection, I meant it. No one hurts what's mine. That possessive word again, mine. It should have alarmed her, but instead it made her feel cherished, valued in a way she'd never experienced before. An hour later, Maya found herself in the penthouse elevator of Adrian's building, riding up to the 59th floor, his private residence. She'd seen pictures of luxury penthouses in magazines, but nothing had prepared her for the reality of Adrian's home. The elevator opened directly into a foyer that was larger than her entire apartment. Beyond that, floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the city, and the space was decorated with a sophisticated blend of modern furniture and classical art. Your guest suite is this way, Adrian said, leading her down a hallway lined with original paintings that probably cost more than most people's houses. He opened a door to reveal what could only be described as a luxury hotel suite. There was a king-sized bed, a sitting area with a fireplace, a marble bathroom that belonged in a spa, and windows that offered their own stunning view of the city. Adrian, this is beautiful, Maya breathed. I'm glad you like it. He set her suitcase down and turned to face her. Maya, I want you to understand, you're not my guest here. You're more than that. This is your home for as long as you want it to be. The weight of his words settled over her like a warm blanket. Home. When was the last time anywhere had felt like home? Thank you, she said softly. Adrian moved closer to her, and Maya felt that familiar electricity crackling between them. There's something else we need to discuss. What? The Caribbean vacation I won at the auction. We leave tomorrow. Maya's eyes widened. Tomorrow? But the Henderson merger can be managed remotely for a few days. Maya, after everything that's happened, you need time to decompress. And frankly, so do I. Adrian's expression grew serious. Plus, it will get us out of the city while David hopefully comes to his senses. The idea of a week alone with Adrian on a private island sent thrills of excitement and terror through Maya's system. Is that wise? Given everything between us? Adrian stepped even closer, close enough that Maya had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. Probably not, he said honestly. But Maya, I've spent 8 years being wise, being careful, keeping everyone at arm's length. I'm tired of being safe. What are you saying? I'm saying that tomorrow morning, we're flying to a private island where there will be no reporters, no David, no distractions. Just you and me. His hand came up to cup her face. And I'm hoping that by the time we come back, we'll both know exactly what we want from each other. Maya's pulse was racing so fast she was sure Adrian could hear it. And if we figure out that we want different things? Then we'll deal with that when it happens. Adrian leaned down until his forehead was resting against hers. But Maya, I don't think we want different things. I think we're both just afraid to admit what we're feeling. What are you feeling? Maya whispered. Adrian's answer was barely audible, like I'm falling in love with you, and it terrifies me more than any business deal I've ever made. Maya's breath caught in her throat. Love. The word hung between them like a bridge waiting to be crossed. Adrian. You don't have to say anything, he said quickly. I just needed you to know where I stand. Tomorrow, we'll have a week to figure out if you feel the same way. Before Maya could respond, Adrian's phone rang. He glanced at it and frowned. I have to take this, he said apologetically. It's my head of security. Make yourself at home, order anything you want for dinner. I'll be back in a few hours. After Adrian left, Maya explored her new temporary home. The penthouse was stunning but felt strangely empty, as if it were more of a showcase than a place where someone actually lived. The only room that felt personal was Adrian's study, where she glimpsed photos of him with his sister and what must have been their parents. She was examining a picture of a young Adrian with his parents when her phone rang. The caller ID made her stomach drop. Sarah. Against her better judgment, Maya answered. Don't hang up, Sarah said immediately. Please. I know you hate me, and you have every right to, but I need to tell you something important. Sarah, I can't do this right now. David is planning something, Sarah interrupted. Something involving Adrian Blackwood. He's been making phone calls all morning, talking to reporters, trying to dig up dirt. Maya felt ice form in her veins. What kind of dirt? I don't know exactly, but Maya, he's obsessed. He keeps saying that Blackwood humiliated him, that he's going to get revenge. Sarah's voice was shaking. He's not the man we thought he was. The past few days have shown me a side of him that scares me. Why are you telling me this? Sarah was quiet for a moment. Because despite everything I've done, despite all the ways I've hurt you, I still love you like a sister. And I can see that David is about to do something that will hurt you even more than we already have. Maya sank into a chair, her mind reeling. Sarah, what exactly did he say? He's been calling reporters, trying to get them to investigate Adrian's business deals, his personal life, anything they can use against him. He found out about Adrian's ex-girlfriend, the one who betrayed him, and he's trying to get her to go public with their relationship. Maya's blood ran cold. Isabella. Adrian had trusted her with that painful story, and now David was going to weaponize it against him. There's more, Sarah continued. He's planning to claim that Adrian is using you to get back at him. That this whole thing is some kind of revenge scheme. That's ridiculous. Maya, David doesn't care if it's true. He just cares if it sounds plausible enough to damage Adrian's reputation. He's going to paint you as a pawn in some billionaire's game. Maya felt sick. Everything Adrian had warned her about was coming true. David was going to use their relationship as a weapon, and innocent people were going to be caught in the crossfire. Why are you really telling me this, Sarah? Sarah's voice broke slightly. Because I've already lost you as a friend. I can't stand by and watch David destroy your chance at happiness too. Maya, the way Adrian looked at you at that gala. David never looked at either of us that way. Ever. The line went quiet except for Sarah's quiet crying. What do you want me to do with this information? Maya asked finally. Warn Adrian. Protect yourself. And Maya? Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. I'm so sorry. For everything. I know you'll probably never forgive me, but I had to try to make something right. Sarah hung up, leaving Maya staring at her phone in shock. Her mind was racing, trying to process all the implications. David wasn't just lashing out, he was systematically trying to destroy both her and Adrian. She needed to tell Adrian immediately. But as she reached for her phone to call him, she realized something that made her blood freeze. If David was digging into Adrian's past with Isabella, how long would it take him to find out about Adrian's parents? About the car accident that had killed them when Adrian was 25? Maya had seen the pain in Adrian's eyes when he'd mentioned taking over the company after his parents died. She'd seen the photos in his study. This wasn't just about business for Adrian, his family legacy, his parents' memory, everything they'd built was tied up in Blackwood Enterprises. If David found a way to attack that legacy, to drag Adrian's family through the media mud, it would destroy Adrian in ways that went far beyond money or reputation. Maya sank onto Adrian's couch, overwhelmed by the weight of what she now knew. Tomorrow, she and Adrian were supposed to fly away together, to figure out their feelings without the pressure of the outside world. But the outside world wasn't going to wait for them. David was escalating his attacks, and Maya was starting to realize that her presence in Adrian's life might be putting everything he cared about at risk. For the first time since walking into Adrian's office 3 days ago, Maya began to wonder if loving him was going to be the most selfish thing she'd ever done. As the sun set over the city, casting long shadows across Adrian's penthouse, Maya made a decision that would change everything. She was going to protect Adrian Blackwood, even if it meant protecting him from herself. But first, she had to survive a week alone with him on a tropical island where the only thing more dangerous than David's schemes would be her own heart. The private jet was like something out of a dream, all cream-colored leather and polished wood, with enough space for a dozen passengers but occupied only by Maya, Adrian, and a discreet flight crew. As they soared above the clouds toward the Caribbean, Maya tried to push aside her worries about David's threats and focus on the present moment. Adrian sat across from her, working on his laptop but occasionally glancing up to catch her eye. Every time their gazes met, Maya felt that familiar flutter of electricity, and she had to remind herself that this trip was supposed to be about figuring out their relationship, not complicating it further. Regrets? Adrian asked, closing his laptop as they began their descent toward the island. About what? About agreeing to a week alone with me on a remote island. His smile was teasing, but Maya caught the underlying vulnerability in his voice. No regrets, she said, and meant it. Whatever happened over the next week, she owed it to both of them to be completely honest about her feelings. Though I have to admit, I'm nervous. Good nervous or bad nervous? Maya looked out the window at the crystal-clear water surrounding a small island that looked like it had been plucked from a postcard. Good nervous. Definitely good nervous. The island was even more beautiful up close. Their accommodation was a sprawling villa built into the cliffs overlooking the ocean, with floor-to-ceiling windows, an infinity pool, and a private beach accessible by a winding stone staircase. Welcome to Paradise Cove, the island's manager, a cheerful woman named Elena, greeted them as they stepped out of the golf cart that had transported them from the small airstrip. Mr. Blackwood, Miss Okafor, I hope you'll find everything to your satisfaction. As Elena showed them around the villa, Maya tried not to think about the implications of the bedroom arrangements. The master suite was enormous, with a king-sized bed and a balcony overlooking the ocean. The guest bedroom was smaller but equally luxurious. I had Elena prepare both bedrooms, Adrian said quietly as Elena finished the tour and departed. No pressure, no expectations. This week is about whatever you want it to be. Maya turned to face him, struck once again by his consideration. Thank you. Adrian moved closer, and Maya felt her pulse quicken. Maya, I need you to understand something. Whatever happens between us this week, it won't change how I feel about you professionally. Your job is secure regardless. And if nothing happens between us? Adrian's smile was rueful. Then I'll spend the rest of my life wondering what might have been. The honesty in his voice nearly undid her. Maya reached up and touched his face, marveling at the way his eyes darkened at the simple contact. Adrian, she whispered. Yes? I don't want to spend my life wondering either. The air between them crackled with possibility. Adrian's hand came up to cover hers, and Maya thought he was going to kiss her. But at the last moment, he stepped back. Dinner first, he said, his voice rough. We should take things slow. Maya nodded, though every cell in her body was screaming for her to close the distance between them. Slow is probably wise. But as they prepared for dinner, Maya in a flowing sundress that made her feel feminine and beautiful, Adrian in linen pants and a white shirt that showed off his tan, Maya wondered how long they would be able to maintain their careful restraint. Dinner was served on the villa's terrace under the stars. Elena had arranged for a local chef to prepare fresh seafood, tropical fruits, and wine that tasted like liquid sunshine. The setting was impossibly romantic, and Maya found herself relaxing for the first time in days. Tell me about your dreams, Adrian said as they lingered over dessert. Not your career goals or your 5-year plan. Your real dreams. The ones you had when you were young and still believed anything was possible. Maya smiled, surprised by the question. I wanted to travel the world and write about the beautiful places I saw. I had this fantasy of living in a little cottage by the sea, writing stories about love and adventure while watching the sunset every night. What happened to that dream? Life, I suppose. I got discovered by a modeling scout when I was 19, and suddenly I was traveling the world, but I was too busy working to write about it. The money was good, the career was exciting, and writing seemed impractical. Adrian leaned forward, his green eyes intense. It's not too late, you know. You could still write. About what? My expertise is in looking pretty for cameras. Not exactly the stuff of great literature. Maya, you've mastered complex financial concepts in days. You've held your own in negotiations with some of the most ruthless businessmen in the country. You have intelligence, insight, and experiences that most people will never have. Of course you could write. The belief in his voice made Maya's chest tight with emotion. You really think so? I think you could do anything you set your mind to. Adrian reached across the table and took her hand. I'd love to read your stories someday. Even if they're terrible? Especially if they're terrible. I want to know every part of you, Maya. The successful model, the brilliant assistant, the woman who dreams of writing love stories by the sea. Maya felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. No one had ever talked to her about her abandoned dreams with such reverence, such certainty that they still mattered. Adrian, she whispered. Yes? I think I'm falling in love with you. The words hung between them like a bridge finally completed. Adrian's grip on her hand tightened, and when he smiled, it was like the sun rising. Good, he said softly. Because I'm completely gone over you. He stood up and walked around the table, extending his hand to her. Maya took it without hesitation, and Adrian pulled her to her feet. Dance with me, he said. There's no music. We don't need music. Adrian's arms came around her, and Maya melted against his chest as they swayed together under the Caribbean stars. She could hear his heartbeat, strong and steady, and feel the warmth of his breath against her hair. Maya, he murmured. Look at me. She tilted her head back, and what she saw in his green eyes took her breath away. It was love, pure and simple, mixed with a desire so intense it made her knees weak. I love you, Adrian said, his voice raw with emotion. I know it's fast, I know it's crazy, but I love you so much it terrifies me. I love you too, Maya whispered, and saying the words aloud felt like jumping off a cliff and discovering she could fly. Adrian's hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing across her cheek. Are you sure? Because Maya, once we cross this line, I'm never letting you go. Instead of answering with words, Maya stood on her tiptoes and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was electric, passionate, full of all the longing they'd been holding back for days. Adrian's arms tightened around her, lifting her off her feet as he deepened the kiss. Maya lost herself in the taste of him, the feel of his hands in her hair, the way he kissed her like she was the air he needed to breathe. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. Maya, Adrian's voice was rough with desire. Yes? Are you sure about this? About us? Maya looked into his eyes and saw her own feelings reflected back at her. Love, desire, hope, and underneath it all, the same fear that had been haunting both of them, the fear of being hurt again, of trusting someone completely only to have that trust betrayed. But as she stood there in Adrian's arms, surrounded by the sound of waves and the warmth of tropical air, Maya realized that some things were worth the risk. I'm sure, she said softly. I want this, Adrian. I want you. Adrian's smile was brilliant and heartbreaking and full of promises. He swept her up in his arms, carrying her toward the villa as Maya laughed with pure joy. Are you sure about this? He asked again as he set her down in the doorway to his bedroom. Adrian Blackwood, Maya said, reaching up to unbutton his shirt, stop asking me if I'm sure and kiss me. He didn't need to be told twice. What followed was a night of passion that neither of them would ever forget. Adrian worshipped Maya's body with a reverence that made her feel like a goddess. He was tender and fierce, gentle and demanding, showing her with every touch and kiss just how precious she was to him. Maya had thought she understood desire, but what she felt with Adrian transcended anything she'd ever experienced. This wasn't just physical attraction, it was soul-deep connection, the joining of two hearts that had found their perfect match. As they lay together afterward, Maya's head on Adrian's chest and his fingers tracing lazy patterns on her bare shoulder, she felt a peace she'd never known before. Regrets? Adrian asked softly, echoing his earlier question. Only that it took us so long to get here, Maya murmured against his skin. Adrian's arms tightened around her. We have time now. All the time in the world. Maya drifted off to sleep in Adrian's arms, feeling safe and loved and utterly complete. But even as she slept, her phone was buzzing with messages from the outside world, messages that would shatter their paradise before the sun rose again. Maya woke to the sound of Adrian's phone ringing insistently from the nightstand. The early morning sun was filtering through the curtains, casting golden light across the rumpled sheets and Adrian's sleeping face. For a moment, she just watched him sleep, marveling at how different he looked when the weight of his empire wasn't pressing down on his shoulders. The phone stopped ringing, then immediately started again. Adrian's eyes opened, and when they focused on Maya, his smile was soft and intimate in a way that made her heart skip. Good morning, beautiful, he murmured, pulling her closer for a gentle kiss. Your phone, Maya said against his lips. Can wait, Adrian replied, deepening the kiss until Maya forgot all about the outside world. But the phone rang again, and this time it was accompanied by the buzzing of Maya's phone from the other room where she'd left it in her purse. Adrian sighed and reached for his phone. This better be important, he answered curtly. Maya watched his expression change from annoyance to confusion to cold fury as he listened to whoever was on the other end. What? Adrian sat up abruptly. When did this happen? How bad? No, don't respond to anything until I get back. And get our legal team on standby. He hung up and immediately began dialing another number. Adrian, what's wrong? Maya asked, pulling the sheet around herself. Get dressed, Adrian said grimly. We need to leave. Now. What happened? Adrian looked at her, and Maya saw something in his expression that made her blood run cold. It was the look of a man who had just been sucker punched. David happened, Adrian said quietly. The bastard went nuclear. 20 minutes later, they were in the golf cart heading back to the airstrip, their romantic getaway cut brutally short. Adrian had been on the phone nonstop, his voice getting colder and more controlled with each call. Talk to me, Maya said as they boarded the jet. What exactly did David do? Adrian handed her his tablet without a word. The headline on the entertainment news site made Maya's stomach plummet. Billionaire's twisted revenge, Adrian Blackwood uses heartbroken model as pawn in corporate war. Below it was a photo of Maya and Adrian from the charity gala, but this time the caption painted their relationship in the most sinister light possible. The article, written by Patricia Holmes, the same reporter who had interviewed David initially, claimed that Adrian had specifically targeted Maya as revenge against David for some unspecified business slight. But that wasn't the worst part. Keep reading, Adrian said quietly. Maya scrolled down and felt her world tilt sideways. There, embedded in the article, was a video interview with a stunningly beautiful woman with dark hair and cold eyes. Isabella. I dated Adrian Blackwood for 2 years, Isabella was saying into the camera. He's charming, generous, but utterly ruthless when it comes to getting what he wants. When I broke up with him, he tried to destroy my art career, blacklisted me from galleries, made sure I couldn't get representation anywhere. Maya looked up at Adrian in shock. This isn't true. Keep watching, Adrian said grimly. When I saw the news about him and this model, Maya, I felt sick, Isabella continued. Because I know exactly what he's doing. He's using her to hurt someone else, probably her ex-boyfriend. Adrian doesn't do anything without 3 different motivations. That poor girl has no idea she's just a pawn in his game. The interview went on, painting Adrian as a manipulative sociopath who collected vulnerable women like trophies and discarded them when they were no longer useful. Maya felt nauseated as she watched Isabella lie with such conviction, such apparent sincerity. There's more, Adrian said flatly. The next section of the article featured quotes from anonymous sources, clearly David, claiming that Adrian had specifically researched Maya's relationship with David and had swooped in the moment she was vulnerable. Mr. Blackwood has a history of targeting women who've been hurt by men in his industry, the anonymous source claimed. It's a pattern. He finds women who are emotionally compromised, offers them jobs or financial security, and then uses them for whatever purpose he has in mind. Maya Okafor is just his latest victim. Maya set the tablet down with shaking hands. How did David get Isabella to do this? Money, probably. Or threats. Isabella has always been for sale to the highest bidder. Adrian's voice was carefully controlled, but Maya could see the pain underneath. The question is, do you believe her? Maya looked at him in shock. What? Do you believe what she's saying about me? That I'm using you, that I targeted you specifically to hurt David? Adrian, of course not. I know you. I know your heart. Do you? Adrian's green eyes were full of anguish. Maya, we've known each other for less than a week. Isabella is very convincing, and David is backing up her story. How do you know I'm not exactly what they're saying I am? Maya felt a stab of panic. Was Adrian actually doubting himself? Or was he testing her faith in him? Because, Maya said firmly, I've seen how you treat people. Your employees, your sister, me. You're not capable of the kind of calculated cruelty they're describing. You've seen how I treat people when things are going well, Adrian countered. You haven't seen me when I'm cornered, when someone threatens everything I care about. Before Maya could respond, Adrian's phone rang again. This time, the conversation was even more heated. What do you mean the Henderson deal is in jeopardy? They're citing concerns about my personal conduct? This is ridiculous, the deal has nothing to do with my private life. I don't care what the board thinks, we have a contract. Adrian hung up and ran his hands through his hair. 3 major deals are now under review. The board is calling an emergency meeting for tomorrow. And the SEC is launching an investigation into my business practices based on anonymous tips about potential misconduct. Maya felt like she was watching a building collapse in slow motion. David did all this? David provided the ammunition. But Maya, this goes deeper than him. Someone wanted to destroy me, and they used our relationship as the perfect weapon. Adrian looked at her with eyes full of pain and something that might have been doubt. The question is, was it worth it? What do you mean? Was a week with me worth having your name dragged through the mud again? Worth being painted as a naive victim who can't see she's being manipulated? Maya felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. Adrian, don't do this. Don't let them win by making you doubt what we have. What we have, Adrian said quietly, might be the thing that destroys everything I've spent my life building. The words hit Maya like physical blows. She stared at him, seeing not the man who had made love to her so tenderly just hours before, but the cold, calculating businessman who would do anything to protect his empire. So what are you saying? Maya asked, her voice barely a whisper. Adrian was quiet for a long moment, staring out the window of the jet at the clouds below. When he spoke, his voice was carefully neutral. I'm saying that maybe Victoria was right. Maybe I do have a tendency to rescue wounded birds, and maybe it's time I learned to think with my head instead of my heart. Maya felt her world crumble around her. You're ending this. Us. I'm being realistic, Adrian said, but Maya could hear the pain he was trying to hide. Maya, I love you. But loving you might be the most selfish thing I've ever done if it means destroying both of our lives in the process. So you're just going to give up? Let David win? I'm going to do damage control. And part of that might mean. Adrian struggled with the words. It might mean putting some distance between us until this blows over. Maya stared at him in disbelief. Distance. Professional distance. You'd still have your job, but we'd need to be more careful about. Stop. Maya held up her hand. Just stop. Adrian, do you hear yourself right now? You're doing exactly what David wanted you to do. You're throwing away what we have because you're afraid. I'm not afraid. Yes, you are. You're terrified. Just like you were after Isabella betrayed you. And instead of fighting for us, you're retreating behind your walls and pretending it's noble sacrifice. Adrian's jaw tightened. This isn't about fear, Maya. This is about reality. My company employs 15,000 people. If I lose everything because I couldn't keep my personal life separate from business. Then we fight, Maya said fiercely. We fight together. We prove they're lying, we expose David for what he really is, and we show the world that what we have is real. Adrian looked at her with something that might have been admiration mixed with frustration. And if we can't prove it? If the damage is already done? Maya met his gaze directly. Then we deal with the consequences together. Because Adrian, that's what love means. It means you don't run when things get difficult. The pilot's voice came over the intercom, announcing their descent into the city. Maya looked out the window and saw the familiar skyline, but it no longer felt like home. It felt like a battlefield. I need some time to think, Adrian said finally as the jet touched down. About the best way to handle this situation. Maya felt her heart breaking. You mean you need time to figure out how to let me go without looking like the villain? Adrian's face was a mask of controlled pain. Maya. No, Maya said, standing up as the jet came to a stop. I understand perfectly. You love me, but not enough to fight for me when it gets difficult. You'd rather preserve your reputation than risk it for something real. That's not fair. Isn't it? Maya grabbed her bag and headed for the jet's door. Adrian, I've spent my entire life with people who claimed to care about me but abandoned me the moment it became inconvenient. I thought you were different. I am different, Adrian said, following her to the door. I'm trying to protect you. You're trying to protect yourself, Maya replied. And that's okay. I understand. But don't insult my intelligence by calling it love. As they descended the steps from the jet, Maya saw the waiting limousine and made a decision that surprised even her. I'll find my own way home, she said. Maya, don't be ridiculous. At least let me. Let you what? Take care of me until it's no longer convenient? Maya shook her head. I'm done being someone's charity case. I'm done being protected by people who don't think I'm strong enough to handle the truth. She walked away from Adrian without looking back, hailing a taxi at the edge of the tarmac. As the car pulled away, she caught a glimpse of Adrian standing beside his limousine, watching her leave with an expression of anguish and regret. But Maya didn't let herself cry until the taxi was out of sight of the airport. The ride back to Adrian's penthouse was a blur of city lights and bitter tears. Maya realized she was homeless again, her apartment was gone, her belongings were in storage, and now the man who had offered her shelter was pulling away just when she needed him most. But as the taxi pulled up to Adrian's building, Maya made another decision. She wasn't going to run away. She wasn't going to let David destroy her life or her newfound love without a fight. If Adrian wanted to retreat behind his walls, that was his choice. But Maya Okafor was done being a victim. She paid the taxi driver and walked into the building with her chin held high. The doorman greeted her politely, and Maya realized that Adrian hadn't revoked her access to his home. Either it was an oversight, or some part of him wasn't ready to cut her out completely. The penthouse felt different now, cold and empty instead of luxurious and welcoming. Maya went to her guest room and sat on the bed, trying to figure out her next move. Her phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. If you want the truth about what David is really planning, meet me at Café Luna on 5th Street in 2 hours. Come alone. S. Sarah. Maya stared at the message, torn between suspicion and curiosity. Sarah had already betrayed her once. But she had also been the one to warn Maya about David's escalating revenge plans. Against her better judgment, Maya typed back, "I'll be there." As she got ready to leave, Maya caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror. The woman looking back at her was different from the broken, defeated person who had walked into Adrian's office less than a week ago. Her eyes were red from crying, but there was a steel in them that hadn't been there before. Maya Okafor was done being anyone's pawn. It was time to take control of her own story. Café Luna was a small, intimate place tucked between a bookstore and a vintage clothing shop. Maya arrived 10 minutes early and chose a corner table where she could see the entrance. Her nerves were stretched tight, and every part of her wondered if she was making a terrible mistake. Sarah walked in exactly on time, looking nothing like the polished model Maya had known. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, she wore no makeup, and her clothes were casual to the point of being sloppy. But it was her eyes that stopped Maya cold. They were red-rimmed and haunted, the eyes of someone who hadn't slept in days. "Thank you for coming," Sarah said as she slid into the seat across from Maya. "I wasn't sure you would." "I'm not sure I should have," Maya replied coolly. "What do you want, Sarah?" Sarah glanced around the cafe nervously before leaning forward. "I want to tell you the truth about David. About what he's really planning." "You mean there's more than destroying Adrian's reputation and using me as ammunition?" "Maya, David isn't just trying to hurt Adrian. He's trying to take over his company." Maya felt the blood drain from her face. "What are you talking about?" Sarah pulled out her phone and showed Maya a series of text messages. "David has been working with someone inside Blackwood Enterprises. Someone high up who wants Adrian out." Maya read the messages, her horror growing with each line. They detailed inside information about Adrian's business deals, his personal habits, even his schedule. But it was the final message that made her feel sick. Phase 1 complete. Isabella's interview has the board questioning his judgment. Phase 2 begins tomorrow with the SEC investigation. Phase 3, the vote of no confidence, should happen within the week. Once he's out, we can move forward with the acquisition. Acquisition? Maya looked up at Sarah in shock. David has been working with Patterson Industries, the company Adrian refused to invest in. They've been planning a hostile takeover for months. But they needed something to destabilize Adrian first, to make him look incompetent or untrustworthy to his own board. Maya felt like the world was tilting sideways. "And I was the perfect weapon." "You were the perfect trigger," Sarah corrected. "David knew that if he could get you fired from your modeling contracts, you'd be desperate for work. He researched Adrian's hiring patterns and knew he had a weakness for helping women in trouble. So David orchestrated my professional downfall just to manipulate me into Adrian's path?" Sarah nodded miserably. "He leaked the information about our relationship to the press himself. He made sure you'd be at rock bottom when Adrian found you." Maya stared at Sarah in horror. "You knew about this?" "Not at first," Sarah said quickly. "I only found out 2 days ago when I overheard him on the phone with Patterson. Maya, when I realized what he'd done, what he was doing to you. I couldn't be part of it anymore." "So you called off the wedding?" "I tried to. But David—" Sarah rolled up her sleeves, and Maya gasped at the bruises on her arms. "He's not the man we thought he was. When I confronted him about using you, about the lies, he lost it." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. "Sarah, did he hurt you?" "He grabbed me, shook me, told me that I'd better keep my mouth shut if I knew what was good for me." Sarah's voice was shaking. "Maya, I'm scared of him. Really scared." Maya reached across the table and took Sarah's hand, all her anger and resentment temporarily forgotten. "You have to get away from him." "I can't. He has photos, videos, things that would destroy my career if they got out. He says if I leave him or try to expose his plan, he'll release everything." Maya felt a surge of protective rage. "Sarah, you can't let him blackmail you." "What choice do I have?" Sarah looked up with tears in her eyes. "Maya, I know you hate me. I know I don't deserve your help. But I had to warn you. David isn't done with you or Adrian. The SEC investigation is just the beginning." Maya's mind was racing. "What else is he planning?" "I don't know all the details, but I heard him mention something about Adrian's parents. About the accident that killed them." Maya's blood turned to ice. "What about the accident?" I don't know, but David was talking to someone about finding new evidence, something that would prove Adrian was somehow responsible for their deaths. Maya felt sick. She'd seen the pain in Adrian's eyes when he'd mentioned his parents. The idea that David would try to weaponize their deaths was unconscionable. Sarah, you have to help me stop him. Sarah shook her head frantically. I can't. If he finds out I told you any of this, then we make sure he doesn't find out. Maya leaned forward, her voice intense. Sarah, David is using both of us. He's destroying lives for money and power. We can't let him get away with it. What are you suggesting? Maya was quiet for a moment, thinking. You said he has someone inside Blackwood Enterprises feeding him information. Do you know who? I heard a name once. Victoria something. Maya's heart stopped. Victoria Blackwood Sterling? Adrian's sister? Maybe? I'm not sure. But Maya, if Adrian's own family is working against him. Maya felt like she was drowning in betrayal. First David, then Adrian pulling away, and now possibly Victoria betraying her own brother. I need proof, Maya said finally. If I'm going to convince Adrian of what's really happening, I need evidence. Sarah hesitated. David keeps everything on his laptop. Financial records, communications with Patterson, everything. But Maya, I can't help you get it. If he caught me. You don't have to help me get it, Maya said, a plan beginning to form in her mind. But you can help me get access to him. What do you mean? Maya looked at Sarah's bruised arms and made a decision that would change everything. You're going to tell David that you want to make things right between us. That you want to apologize to me face to face. Maya, no. It's too dangerous. It's the only way, Maya said firmly. Set up a meeting. Somewhere public but private enough for us to talk. I'll wear a wire, get him to confess what he's done. Sarah looked terrified. And then what? Then we take the recording to Adrian and prove that everything Isabella said was a lie. We expose the conspiracy and save both Adrian's company and your freedom from David's blackmail. What if it doesn't work? What if David realizes what we're doing? Maya met Sarah's eyes directly. Then we'll deal with that when it happens. But Sarah, I'm done being a victim. I'm done letting other people control my story. Are you? Sarah was quiet for a long moment, staring down at her bruised arms. When she looked up, Maya saw something new in her expression, determination mixed with fear, but determination nonetheless. Okay, Sarah said quietly. I'll set up the meeting. As they left the cafe, Maya felt a mixture of terror and resolve. She was about to walk into what could be a very dangerous trap. But for the first time since her world had fallen apart, she felt like she had some control over her own destiny. Her phone buzzed with a text from Adrian. Maya, we need to talk. Please come home so we can discuss this rationally. Home. He still called it home, even after their fight at the airport. Maya stared at the message, torn between her anger at his retreat and her love for the man who had shown her what real partnership could look like. She typed back, I need 24 hours to handle something. Then we'll talk. Adrian's response was immediate, Maya, please don't do anything dangerous. Whatever you're planning, let me help. Maya's heart clenched at the concern in his message. Part of her wanted to run back to his penthouse, tell him everything Sarah had revealed, and let him handle the situation with his resources and power. But another part of her, the part that had spent too many years being protected and controlled by other people, knew that she needed to do this herself. Not just for Adrian, but for herself. She turned off her phone without responding and began walking toward her destiny. What Maya didn't know was that David was already 3 steps ahead of her, and the trap he was setting would test not just her courage, but everything she thought she knew about love, loyalty, and the price of revenge. Maya spent the night in a modest hotel room, going over the plan again and again. Sarah had texted her the meeting details, tomorrow at 3 p.m. at the Riverside Cafe, a quiet spot near the waterfront where they could talk privately but still be in public. Maya had purchased a small recording device, nothing fancy, just something that would pick up conversation clearly. She'd practiced with it until she could operate it smoothly, naturally, without drawing attention. But as she lay in the unfamiliar hotel bed, Maya's mind kept drifting to Adrian. Was he sleeping? Was he as torn apart by their fight as she was? Part of her wanted to call him, to tell him she loved him regardless of his fears, But another part of her was still angry at how quickly he'd been willing to throw away what they had. Her phone buzzed at 2 a.m. with a message from Sarah. David agreed to meet. But Maya, he seemed pleased when I suggested it. Almost like he was expecting it. Are you sure about this? Maya stared at the message, feeling a chill run down her spine. Was she walking into a trap? Probably. But it was the only way to get the evidence she needed to save Adrian's company and expose David's true nature. She typed back, I'm sure. See you tomorrow. The next day dragged by with agonizing slowness. Maya tried to eat breakfast but couldn't keep anything down. She rehearsed what she would say to David, how she would get him to confess without making him suspicious. At 2:30 p.m., Maya made her way to Riverside Cafe. It was exactly as Sarah had described, a small, intimate restaurant with outdoor seating overlooking the water. Only a few tables were occupied, giving them privacy while still being in a public space. Sarah was already there when Maya arrived, sitting at a corner table and looking nervous. She'd clearly made an effort with her appearance today. Her makeup was perfect, hiding any trace of the bruises Maya had seen on her arms. He'll be here in a few minutes, Sarah said as Maya sat down. Maya, are you sure about this? It's not too late to change your mind. Maya felt for the recording device in her purse, making sure it was easily accessible. I'm sure. David arrived exactly on time, and Maya was struck by how normal he looked. This was the man she'd loved for 3 years, the man she'd thought she might marry someday. He looked handsome and charming, wearing the smile that had once made her heart flutter. Maya, he said warmly, leaning down to kiss her cheek as if they were old friends meeting for lunch. You look wonderful. Thank you for agreeing to this. David. Maya kept her voice neutral, though her pulse was racing. He sat down beside Sarah, and Maya noticed how his hand immediately went to Sarah's thigh in a possessive gesture. Sarah flinched slightly but didn't pull away. I'm glad we can finally have this conversation, David continued. The past week has been difficult for all of us. Difficult, Maya repeated. Is that what you call it? David's expression grew serious, concerned. Maya, I know you're upset about the media attention, about the things that have been said. But I want you to understand, I never meant for you to get hurt. Maya almost laughed at the audacity of it. You never meant for me to get hurt? David, you went on national television and questioned my mental state. I was worried about you, David said, his voice full of apparent sincerity. When I saw you at that gala with Adrian Blackwood, looking so different. I was concerned that you might be making decisions based on emotion rather than logic. Different how? Harder. Colder. Not like the Maya I knew and loved. David leaned forward, his expression earnest. Maya, Adrian Blackwood has a reputation for manipulating women who are in vulnerable positions. I couldn't stand by and watch him use you. Maya felt anger rising in her chest, but she forced herself to stay calm. This was exactly what she needed, David painting himself as the concerned ex-boyfriend just trying to protect her. Carefully, Maya reached into her purse and activated the recording device. So you were just looking out for me? Maya asked. That's why you've been giving interviews about my personal life. I was trying to open your eyes to what was really happening. David's voice carried perfect conviction. Maya, do you honestly believe that Adrian Blackwood, one of the most powerful men in the city, just happened to hire you as his assistant? A woman with no business experience? Maybe he saw my potential, Maya said, baiting him. David actually laughed. Your potential? Maya, sweetheart, you're beautiful and you were a successful model, but let's be realistic. Men like Adrian Blackwood don't hire women like you for their business skills. The condescension in his voice was like a slap in the face. Maya saw Sarah wince at David's casual cruelty. Then why do you think he hired me? Maya asked. Because you were perfect for his purposes, David said, warming to his theme. A beautiful woman, recently humiliated, desperate for work and validation. The perfect pawn for whatever game he was playing. What game? David's eyes gleamed with something that looked like satisfaction. The game where he gets back at me for refusing his investment offer last year. Maya's pulse quickened. This was it, the confession she needed. I don't understand, Maya said, playing innocent. Adrian Blackwood approached me last year with an offer to invest in my company. But his terms were insulting, he wanted majority control, wanted to push me out of my own company. When I refused, he was displeased. David leaned back in his chair, his expression smug. So when our relationship ended and you were suddenly available, vulnerable, he saw the perfect opportunity for revenge. What better way to humiliate me than to seduce my ex-girlfriend and parade her around as his new trophy? Maya felt sick at how easily the lies flowed from his lips. You really believe that's what happened? Maya, I know that's what happened. I've done my research on Adrian Blackwood. The man has a pattern of targeting women who've been hurt by men in his social circle. You weren't his first victim, and you won't be his last. So everything that's happened, my modeling contracts being cancelled, the media attention, Isabella's interview, that's all just coincidence? David's smile was sharp. Sometimes the truth has a way of coming to light when people dig deep enough. Maya felt her heart racing. He was so close to confessing outright. She just needed to push a little harder. It's interesting timing, though, Maya said carefully. All of this happening right when Adrian was in the middle of major business deals. Is it? David's expression was innocent, but Maya caught the flash of satisfaction in his eyes. I suppose bad publicity never comes at a good time for men like him. Especially when it leads to SEC investigations and board votes. David went very still. What do you know about board votes? Maya realized she'd overplayed her hand. David's entire demeanor changed, the mask of concern sliding away to reveal something cold and calculating. Maya, David said quietly, how would you know about internal board politics at Blackwood Enterprises? Sarah looked terrified, her eyes darting between Maya and David. Maya realized that David had figured out exactly what was happening. Lucky guess, Maya said, but she could hear the weakness in her own voice. David smiled, and it was the most frightening expression Maya had ever seen. No, I don't think so. I think someone has been feeding you information. The question is who? He turned to look at Sarah, and Maya saw her former best friend go pale. Sarah, darling, David's voice was dangerously soft. You wouldn't happen to know how Maya learned about the board situation, would you? I don't know what you're talking about, Sarah whispered. Of course you do. David's hand tightened on Sarah's thigh, and Maya saw her wince in pain. Did you really think I wouldn't figure out that you're the only person who could have told her about my business arrangements? Maya felt panic rising in her chest. This was going wrong, fast. David, let her go, Maya said firmly. Let her go? David laughed, but there was no humor in it. Maya, you have no idea what you've walked into. Did you really think you could record our conversation and use it against me? Maya's blood turned to ice. I don't know what you mean. The recording device in your purse. Did you honestly think I wouldn't notice you reaching for it? David's smile was predatory. Maya, I've been planning this conversation for days. I know exactly why you're here and exactly what you're trying to do.